finally back home, y'all. Dude, since Thursday night, / at that point it was Friday morning, I have wanted to come back here, sit in this chair, and press that red button with every fiber in my being, man. I have reread this chapter so many times. It is one of the things that has allowed me to stay sane throughout this incredibly busy weekend. It was... Oh no! Oh no! Bro, this chapter was truly peak, man. Truly peak. Even now, I stand here, the Viz translation just recently came out. Literally, the first thing I did when I touched down here at the crib, I was like, first thing I'm doing is I'm buying and downloading Street Fighter, which that's currently taking place. Because y'all know that Street Fighter 6, baby. Listen, man, long-time Street Fighter fan, I could not wait for this one, and it pained me I wasn't able to play it on Friday, so I was like, hold on. But we're here now. But the second thing I did, I was like, we gotta press the red button, talking about some One Piece, man. And hopefully, whenever we finish doing this Afterthoughts, I'll have the opportunity to watch the last 2 episodes, which I really, really want to watch, considering they're the adaptations of 1036 and 1037. So, super excited for that. But I was like, nah, man, we've got to talk about Sabo Sad Dot Bo. Stop playing with my boy, Sad Boy, man. Yo, doing probably the rawest thing in the history of the series. Pulling his own 3 Admirals moment. He pops up right in front of all 5 of the Gorosei as they're transforming. The Gorosei are transforming. We can't process nor comprehend exactly what they've become. We can just see the outlines. We've got Harvey Birdman. We've got the Big Bull. It's like, what are they? I don't know. One of them looks like Onigashima. It's like, I don't know, man. And then after pulling up on the Gorosei and using the Ken, the Fire Fist, who does he go for? He goes for Instant Messenger Sama, man. And we're here to see Instant Messenger Sama utilizing not only an attack against Cobra with the arrow or the tail, whatever in the world that thing was, but then it's like, yo, where did this one come from? Transforms into this massive shadowy blob, and I'm like, I am losing my mind. Sabo greatness, Nefeltari D Vivi, which means Nefeltari D Lily, and it's like, bro, we share the moniker of D, one of the best pages of the year right there, man. Cobra, that is a king I would follow. Oh, nothing but the biggest salute to Nefeltari D, Cobra, man. But dog, and then Wapol, Vivi, I mean, this chapter was just, it was perfect. This was undeniably a Final Saga Oda masterclass. 500 million out of 10 chapter. It has been rent-free. Haven't been able to stop thinking about it. It's just, man. Now I'm gonna look here at the comments because, dude, I'm just this chapter was so peak. Just give me the opportunity here to go through this in the Viz. I have not read it in the Viz translation yet, and I want to go through this again, man, because even though I've reread it like 30 times. Let me see if there are any differences here in the Viz translation. I was like, screw it, let's just do this on camera, and then of course we'll get to the comments. But no one is meant to sit upon that throne. It is not meant for one person's will to sway the entire world. There are 2 things I wish to say and 1 thing to ask of thee, Cobra. Thee. No! TCB's like thou! And my boy like thee. Woo! So either way, I'm eating. Either way, we were speaking in good old Shakespearean, no matter the translation we're doing. Thee and thou, y'all. Thee and thou. Who are you? I know the name Emu already, but it must be a coincidence. Among the first 20, do not seek the answer. I will not provide it. But I can tell thee what thou wish to know. The D is the name of those who once opposed us. Those who bubble up from every corner of the world bearing the D are nothing but empty husks, ignorant of the meaning of their name. However, This recent development has its roots in Queen Lily's great mistake of 800 years ago. Mistake, as does the curiosity of the scholars rummaging after the void century. As does the spate of pirates seeking the poneglyphs for treasure. If not for Lily's mistake on that fateful day, the loathsome relics called the poneglyphs would not have been scattered across the world. And this unfortunate event of the past has one disastrous potential explanation. Was the liberation of the poneglyphs actually a simple mistake, or was it planned? Emu, you know exactly what happened. And then they all go for the Glock 40s. I'm stressing this panel still, man. These boys turned into some mythical creatures, but before that, their first instinct was to go straight for the Glocks in the Sandai Kitetsu 10. Like, what? And the answer to that question must be found within Lily's letter sent to Alabasta, but I have only heard thee speak of Queen Lily of the Nefeltari dynasty. Why do you hide it from Mu? Mu, yo. Mu! Tell Mu the proper name of the sender. Well, that certainly settles it. I clearly will not be allowed to leave this room alive. If I told you a lie, would I escape the blow? The moment you saw the great Emu, your fate was sealed. I suppose this is the greatest taboo in the world. Sabo going up in like Somer double pay spread. What's going on? I mean, something's very wrong. The letter was signed by the Queen of Alabasta 800 years ago. Her name was Nefeltari D. Lily. Emu. This arrow. What in the world is this arrow, dude? D. Pierces. He can. Fire Fist. Rook check is the name of the Viz translation. I definitely much prefer the Smothered Mate name, especially with the translator note. Definitely. But Rook check, I guess, sounds pretty cool. Where did thou come from? Comes in, turns into the massive shadowy blob thing. You know, when I see this massive shadowy blob thing, the first thing that pops into my mind is just like, please, let me have that Gear 5 Luffy versus Emu action, because it really does look like Dark Toon Force energy versus regular Toon Force energy. It just does. It does, man. And then the shadows, like, I can't believe the Gorosei in this chapter were shown off in this way, dude. Like, not only am I so glad that they're confirmed combatants of the highest caliber, of the highest degree, but these individuals are rocking like crazy mythical forms to the point where we can't even see them yet. I would have liked to, oh man, I can't wait for Garcia Saturn. God, bro. I am like 100 million times more hyped to get back to Egghead now after this chapter. Like seriously. I would have liked to take you all of you down right here. Alas, to think there was such a diabolical truth at the pinnacle of the world. You're Luffy's brother? You would save me despite being a revolutionary? Our real enemies aren't the kings, it's those guys above you. How do you know Luffy, though? He saved my life. Sounds like the king. Goes in, and of course we see the shadows here. You can escape on your own. It's too late for me to put me down. No, I'm saving you. Realize something today. You must not die here. Send a message to Luffy and Vivi. Luffy and Princess Vivi. Tell them that we also bear the D. Then we cut over to Sabo. At last I see a way forward for Alabasta. Is it a fluke? You guys both have a D in your name. Oh, you're right. Well, I don't care what my name is. You want a D, Sabo? Sadibo. That's not where it goes. So very similar here, except here we see it like hyphenated rather than having the sad dot bow. It's a sad sa hyphen D, end of the hyphen bow. And then here we have the arrow or the tail, whatever it is, piercing Sabo, of course, King Cobra. The poneglyphs must be, and then I'm going to assume this says protected again, bear the flag of the dawn against blank ing world. I'm going to assume the incoming, I don't know, dawn against blank world. Nefeltari D. Lily, I'm counting on you, Sabo. King Cobra, and then all this. So that's the part of the chapter that I wanted to go through again in terms of the Viz translation. It looks like a lot of that stuff was very similar. So whenever we get to the anime adaptation, it looks like they're going to be using similar stuff to what we've seen within both. So I just wanted to make sure, that we have a good clarification on exactly what was being stated here within the entire conversation, because obviously a lot of craziness took place. We want to be right down the middle in terms of our beloved TCB and our Viz, and see the middle ground, because that's always where the answer is, right? And so a lot of the stuff was very similar this week, which I was curious about, considering that this is very, very important information that was being revealed to us. And so without further ado, let's get right into the comments, because man, I cannot wait to see what y'all are cooking. Like I said, I've been out and I've only been able to register what I've watched and heard other people talk about in their videos. I've read certain things about it, but I want to see what my community has to say. And we had all near 4 hour, no, it was 4 hours, 4 hour discussion of the chat. Well, technically it was like 3 hours, but it was like an hour reaction, and then the 3 hour discussion that took place after. And there was so many things brought up there. I know, while taking screenshots for the afterthoughts here, I saw that a few people wanted me to talk about where the wild things are. We went in depth on that in the stream, but just to touch upon that really quickly, I think the similarities are absolutely insane. The fact that Oda continues to be inspired by stuff that is outside his own medium is why One Piece continues to be as special as it is. To be inspired by such a legendary story, one that I most certainly am very fond of, that I really adored as a child. When I saw that the uncanny similarities to the story of where the wild things are, I was in awe there on stream. And so to that, to the Yumi Bozu, all that stuff we covered on stream, and it was just phenomenal stuff. And so I'm looking forward to seeing where Oda goes with those types of things, and I'm sure it'll probably pop up here. But let's go ahead and get this thing started, man. There's so much stuff to discuss. This chapter was absolutely insane. Goodness gracious, man. And so good God, it's like, bro, it's been 3 days and I still can't comprehend what took place within this chapter. And so I want to connect starting off with Emu, because of course we got to talk about Emu. We got to talk about Semester Sama, right? Momo's has a comment that connects to another comment. So Momo says, Mu can also mean dream, right? Mugiwara, right? So Momo's says that right here. J Manuel RM says, King, my girlfriend just told me Mu is another way to read the kanji for the number 6. And you have the 5 Gorosei in Emu there. Listen, man. Oda and his numbers, y'all. As Afon Sorrells says right under the comment, Go and Mu is 5 and 6. Gomu. How did we not catch that until now? Maybe it's because there was the I in front of it, but how did we not catch the Gomu? Like, it's an incredible play on words, but that's still crazy to me. That is crazy to me, man. And so, Mugiwara, right? The Mu for dreaming, but now, of course, the Go for the 5 Gorosei and Moon. That's just, I don't know, man. That's wild to me. That's wild to me. Also, some years ago, I'm pretty sure Oda said that some Mugiwaras were blood related, and I don't. Did he ever say that? In this case, Vivi and Luffy, or am I tripping about this? Also, my reaction is always, I appreciate you, man. It was a crazy stream. That was one of the craziest streams we've ever had. I appreciate everybody who was there, and everybody who watched the VOD afterwards. We're celebrating the 10 years of greatness here, but it was a beautiful, beautiful time and an incredible discussion. Y'all were on fire with the theories, man. My mind was blown on a multitude of occasions. So once again, if you would like some more theory stuff and discussions, please check out the after the reaction section of that entire stream, because it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But in regards to Vivi and Luffy, I almost called Luffy Lily. I mean, it might as well be this way, right? But the blood connection there, I think it's just a similar, having the D, which at this point has been clear as day, as at least to me, is something that is not blood related. It is something that's just carried to a group of individuals that are opposing the Ibu, right, and whatever that's going to entail later on as well. So in terms of their ancient enemies. And so I wonder, with that being said, are there going to be, like Sabo in this chapter, people like Luffy and Ace giving other people the D initial just because they are opposing someone like Imu once they find out what it actually means, right? Because like Imu said within this chapter, a lot of people bear that name without knowing what it actually means because it has been lost to history. And so I wonder if once we learn more about the D, are people going to attempt to inherit that middle initial as well? And we're going to have a bunch of people with the middle D initial within the series, those who oppose Imu, right? Like, I'm curious. Are they listed like the leaders who oppose Imu? I'm very, very curious. I'm very, very curious. But regardless, I don't think that that any of the Mugiwaras are going to be blood related, because it is a part of like that found family thing. But the Vivi and Luffy connection is definitely there, and I think that is so awesome, because we know, all of us know, that Vivi is most certainly a Straw Hat, and so thank y'all both for that. Great stuff. I want to read this comment right here from Coron Brown. That's talking on the Wapol scenario and a little bit of a twist here. It is a stretch like Gomu Gomu no Pistol. At this point, nothing's a stretch. But do you think Wapol swallowed Kumadori? I only say this because the panel where they, CP0, and to be precise, Kumadori is sitting down, is the exact same place that Wapol is coming. Do you think, like his past gag of being jokingly trapped, he was accidentally eaten? That would be hilarious. And just chilling in Wapol's stomach. Again, it's a stretch, but my last argument, he is the only one missing in the panel with all the CP0 members looking out to see where Wapol is going. And then, hold on, for some reason, here it is. Just a thought. So, Coron Brown, I think this is very, very interesting. I just wonder if this is true, then what is Oda planning with Kumadori? So when we cut back to the bearer of big news, Nefeltari D. Vivi. Feels so good to see that. And Wapol. Are you telling me Kumadori is potentially going to be present there to be able to overhear what is undoubtedly about to be an insane conversation that could lead to the entire planet hearing about this situation? Right? Because Wapol, if he opens that giant mouth to Big News Morgans, we know how he is. He's going to publish this everywhere. And so, obviously, I wonder how much Wapol was able to overhear and or see, right? Like, what is he going to put within the newspaper? How much is it going to be, overblown? Even though I don't know how you can possibly overblow something more than this. But I imagine maybe it's going to be, Sabo framed by the true king of the world, or king of the world sits atop of the throne, or something. Like, he needs to catch a title. You know what I'm saying? And so Big News Morgans, I'll leave the ball in his court for that, for coming up with a good title for that article. But could you just imagine the repercussions of that? I mean, it is going to be insane, considering that coming off of this Vivi, Wapol, and Morgan scenario, we could potentially have a majority of the planet, or at the very least those who read the World Economic Journal, now having this brand new idea pushed into their heads. Obviously, there's going to be those individuals who are not going to believe in this, but there are going to be individuals who are going to believe in it and be like, wait a minute, there's somebody who actually sits upon the throne that nobody's supposed to sit in? They're breaking the world's greatest taboo? How would the Celestial Dragons react to that? How would Emu react to that? Would the Lucia start taking place all around the world? Are we going to see the Great Cleansing truly start happening after this? Right, like now that all this information is starting to escape their grasp, it's like once they start losing that control that they've had over the people for this long amount of time, that's whenever we really start going into the downfall of the Celestial Dragons. And of course, once the Void Century starts being revealed to a bunch more people, that's when it really starts to downfall. And so I wonder what the repercussions of that would be. And with that being said, I also wonder what Kumadori would do with the information if you're right here, because obviously we know that Lucci is having his own internal conflict here within the arc, and he doesn't know whether to blindly follow what he's been shown and taught up until this point, or if he should go against it, right? And at this point, obviously, he's fighting against one of the emperors of the sea, and so he's putting his own values and his own justice above the one that he's been fed this entire time. So it is a very interesting thing that if CP9 were to come out of this now, CP0, if they were to come out of this scenario as going against the WG, with Kumadori potentially coming back and presenting all this information to them. Right now, Lucci can put the pieces together. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen with Kizaru and Saint Garcia Saturn pulling up. We'll talk about that here in a second, because there's a lot of comments in regards to that too. But if Lucci manages to stay alive coming out of this, then I wonder if you're right and Kumadori is within Wapol, then we'll have that opportunity for Kumadori to come in and release all of this information that he received from Wapol and be like, yo, this is what he said, he saw. And it would connect with Lucci and be like, okay, yeah. And then I wonder what his response would be. Would he continue to remain under the WG, or do they become their own independent faction? Like, what would happen after that? It's so interesting. There was a comment that I would... Oh, thank you, Karan Brown. That's a fantastic idea. I never even thought of, right? There was a comment talking about the... Oh, we were here from Prey Taurus. Now, Prey Taurus brings up an idea on Emu as a character that I really wanted to talk about. And so here we have... Just wanted to throw out that since Mu equals void / dream, it really is the empty throne. What do you think this means for Emu's character philosophy? I think there's a reason other than practicality or cowardice for Emu ruling in secret for 800 years. I agree 110%. And I'm so curious on what route Oda wants to take with this Prey Taurus. After the chapter reaction and, the arrow conversation, we started talking about the possibilities of this tail potentially being like the classic cartoon devil tail. And it got me to start thinking about its design, like Emu's design, whenever we start seeing it. What is it going to look like? Because obviously, with this character and with the 5 Gorosei, especially with them being considered saints, right? We are delving into this individual either being portrayed as a devil or a god or both. And I think that would be very interesting if especially coming from Oda, who normally has a very unique take on these sorts of things, what exactly we're going to be going with here. What I find most fascinating about this is, regardless of the route in which he wishes to take this, the way that Emu has been handling this entire reign for the past 800 years has been very, very devil-like, quote unquote, in terms of, there's a common saying that I've heard before, even our community, I think Threeville was the one that talked about it. It was like, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was tricking people into believing he doesn't exist. And I think that really fits Emu's character. Not just within the way in which it's been handled up until this point, and of course now it looks like the chains are being broken, and Emu doesn't give a flying flag once he sees him now. It's like, we're getting ready for the big stuff now, baby. Nika has been released. Blackbeard's on the move. Vivi it's like, it's time. It's time for the finale we've been building up towards. So maybe he just doesn't care anymore. But for the last 800 years, that has been the thing. And I love how it also connects. That idea is very, very true. But it also connects to the other side, right? Where we have a character who is building upon the reset of the One Piece verse. And after that, undeniably, the king of the world that no one knows of. Right, and it's put on like this fake sort of thing of democracy, right, and these ideas that are not taking place, but is making the people believe they are taking place. And so I just wonder what Emu's entire thought process is in creating this type of world. Because if Emu is an individual who wants to be known, wants to be worshipped, who wants to be seen as his king of the world, then why not outwardly say this for a long time? What caused Emu 800 years ago to say, I'm going to stay under wraps, like I'm not going to reveal myself? Is it out of guilt? Is it out of dishonor? Is it out of like, what is it for? Obviously, we see the character always shown with like butterflies, which indicates like, the balance between life and death. So it's like, what exactly was Emu's thought process when creating this entire thing? Going back 800 years ago, now that especially in this chapter we found out that Emu comes from the original 20 kings, and it's like, for me, what did Emu, especially with the Lily thing with Joy Boy and everything that took place, what caused Emu to want to go into quote-unquote hiding for a long time while being the undeniable king of the world? It makes you think, right? Like, this is, it's sort of strange. It doesn't compute. And like you said, it's obviously not out of cowardice after what we saw in this chapter. Obviously not. Nor is it out of practicality. This is One Piece. So it's like, we might be running into the truest villain in the One Piece series in regards to just strictly from an ideological standpoint and from, like you said, from his character philosophy, where we have a character that is willing to maybe throw the possibilities in which they themselves would be like the center of all worship, and or the center of the world's like fear and or love towards, if they were finding this character exists, throwing that all aside for just being in control. Like, I know we all value different things, but in terms of just the villains, we know that a lot of them, it's kind of reminds me of how Crocodile was doing things there for a little bit, where obviously holding the entire country in deception, everyone treats his character as a hero, but Crocodile was really there after something else. So it's like, in Emu's case, this character obviously does not give a flying flag when it's about being worshipped and or being seen as a hero and or this and or that, but rather just wants everything to remain the way that it is right now. And so if that's the case, then why hold something like the giant straw hat? Is this character someone who hangs on to the past a lot? Especially here within this chapter, the way that they respond upon hearing Lily's name, the things that are brought up on, if things would have just happened the way they should have happened, and Lily would never have made that grave blunder that would have sent the poneglyphs out in the first place, things would have never gone this way. So obviously there's a lot of regret for things not having gone a certain way in the past. And it does go into that whole control thing, right? Like, things didn't happen according to my plan, according to the control that I had in mind. What I wish to do with that scenario, and thus I'm still thinking of that all of these years later, and it's really like still digging away at them. So it's like, I don't know. And it's so interesting, and I think that's one of my favorite parts about theorizing about Emu, especially now in the stream, somebody brought up the possibility of Emu being the combination of several different kings into one of the original 19, which is why they refer to themselves in third person. I think it's a very, very interesting possibility that could end up taking place, especially with the theory of Blackbeard being three souls and inside of one body. I think that's having Emu being the original 19 in one. That's crazy. That's crazy. But then even then, it's like, okay, if you have the original 19 inside of one body, and all of them tossed their ideologies, their separate ideologies to the side in order to create this one massive super figure that still is not being seen by everyone around the world. Like, normally, if you were the king, especially a villain in this type of case, you, like I said, you would want to be at the very top to put the proverbial foot down on everything. But this individual does this all from behind the scenes, like no one ever sees him on camera. So it's like, that's what makes Emu so fascinating to me. And then we obviously know the characters about it. We saw what that arrow did to Sabo. Sabo, in going into power scaling here for a couple of seconds, on almost everyone that I know, that I speak to when it comes to those fun versus debates and potential battle scenarios, Sabo is very high on a lot of lists, mine included, in regards to just how powerful of a character Sabo is. The man couldn't see the arrow coming. He was annihilated in a single attack. Emu is obviously about it. Still behind the scenes. It is such a fascinating, like, it's like, Emu's kind of filled with contradictions, but it all makes sense. And it's a very unique character. Who would have thought that Otis still had another of the greatest of all oppressors to be in this type of way? Because obviously, characters like Walpole, that have been brought into the story as these types of characters before, did it for everything for their own benefit, right? They didn't give a flying flatters about anything else except for they themselves being treated as like, oh, the king, right? And everything of this nature. We know Doflamingo's motivations, Crocodile's motivations, Enel's motivations, right? Bringing a lot of the of who they are as individuals at the forefront. People being the reasons why they are who they are. And we see how that is they're displaced within the core of their character, specifically as antagonists. But in Emu's case, it's like, it's so strange. It's so strange, and I love it. I really, really love it, man. Like, I wish I had an answer for you, Praetorius, but it's something I've been thinking about as well. Like, what would cause a character like this to rule in secret for such a long time? You know, when you compare it to the real life type of examples, right? It's just, it looks like a combination of multiple different factors, but you still can't throw away the fact that this one person has tossed so many things out of the door to just ensure that the planet stays the way that it is, and that nothing, you know, destroys that balance, that they remain completely in control of the scenario even if no one knows of their existence. It is a terrifying thing, and obviously they have in this god complex with stuff like Lucia and the Great Cleansing. But even with that being said, I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I love it. I really, really do, man. It is one of my favorite parts about Emu, and one of the major reasons why the character continues to make me lose my mind every single time I see them. Following up Emu, we have Scar, who says, we still don't know what the Phantom Room is and how it's called a Phantom Room. Is it Emu's ability that makes it a Phantom Room, or some other person like the Holy Knights? Since the Gorosei have fruit powers, that just means the Holy Knights will be under Gorosei, and the Goroseis are like the commanders. That is a great way of putting it, Scar. Maybe during the final war, each Gorosei takes one Holy Knight with them to place their campaign there, while the rest top 4 stay with Emu. Luffy and his commanders take on them, while the remaining Straw Hats help the revolutionaries deal with the Gorosei. Of course, the matchups will be chaotic, and we will be surprised who fights who, just laying on a general map. I also feel like Emu won't directly step in until Luffy finds Laugh-Tail and goes to challenge Emu himself. Bro, and like I said, after this chapter, my excitement for Luffy versus Emu is like through the roof, especially with that cartoon Devil Tail, because now it's just gonna be cartoon shenanigans. Oh man, with Luffy and Emu, two characters that defy logic, and a rematch of the past. And I'm sure that the original Joy Boy versus Emu must have been the pinnacle of peak fiction, probably changing the landscape into what we know of it as today, right? So grandiose that battle was, to have that happen again, for Emu to find another person that utilizes the fruit in an even more different way than the original Joy Boy than Nika did. It's like, man, I'm sure, because I'm pretty sure the first time that Emu looks at a lot of this stuff, is like, man, a lot of that stuff is, hey, I've already seen it. Like, yeah, my dog Nika was already doing all this. But I'm sure with Luffy's imagination and with the entire journey that Luffy's been on, which was very, very different to Nika's, because the world wasn't the same then. So the imagination and the inspiration that Luffy allows to enter his body is going to be the catalyst for him coming up with brand new techniques that Emu has never seen before, that he never saw happen with any of the other users of this ability. And so that is going to be really exciting for Emu to be shocked at the way that certain things take place there. And I wonder, because obviously the battle is going to be crazy, right? It's going to be the balance of the entire world and Luffy's hands there, as well as the 800-year, or not even just 800-year, the entire history of the verse of the world of One Piece on Luffy's shoulders. And even with that being said, because of what I saw today, I already know it's going to be a classic One Piece fight. There's going to be hilarious shenanigans that are going to be out of this world and crazy. The way that both of them are potentially going to be able to change the environment around them is going to be insane, and each other. So it's just going to be counter, and both of them are mastered with their abilities. Whatever in the world Emu's rocking, it's like, it's going to be crazy. But I'm after this chapter, and what I saw with the shouted out thing, the big blob, and absorbing Sabo's attack, it's just, Luffy versus Emu is going to be peak. Luffy versus Emu is not something I'm looking forward to as much as Luffy versus Blackbeard. I mean, it is truly going to be something special. I honestly forgot Saint J is about to die. Who's stopping the sun? That's what I'm saying. Who's stopping the king? Kizaru? He better watch his 9, because Zoro's not letting him go after the disrespect he did during the Sabar. That's a factual statement. Oh, Zoro. Can you imagine, bro? I would lose my mind, man. Is all we're going to hear. Now, after all the rambling I did here, my major takes going forward. Egghead Incident will be Luffy and his crew taking out all of the Navy and St. J. Garcia Saturn. This news will be printed along with all the crazy stuff that's been happening and Emu's identity being revealed. Dude, post Egghead is going to be the crazy. If we think the stuff we're witnessing right now is crazy, which it has been. Oh man. Navy being questioned and puzzled themselves. Emperors, yes, and that's my favorite thing about it, right? Once Emu's existence is properly revealed, we're going to see the characters within the WG, within the Marines, questioning themselves. Are they truly following the right side? The individuals at the top have broken the world's greatest taboo, as King Cobra talked about in this chapter. So it's like, it's so interesting. It is so interesting, man. Well, the other pirates doing their thing or following the other emperors to make it to One Piece. Just imagine the amount of people who would collaborate after knowing Yonko closing in on it. Seraphim might be recovered somehow. There is just so much chaos, and I can't even put half of the things that will go down. Among all this, we still have Voice Century lore. By the end of this year, I still don't know if I can remember anything about One Piece. That's all my brain has been filled with. Right? And following that up, we have Animaniac89, who says, is it possible that Saint Saturn is heading to Egghead to extinguish the aforementioned light? Ooh, perhaps the king. Do you think we'll be getting even more information about the Voice Century in the conclusion of Egghead? So, this is a good two-parter here. So, in regards to Saint Garcia Sunrise, I do believe that Vegapunk is going to be the main thing that they're going after. And with that connection to the Iron Giant, because I'm sure the Iron Giant thing and the Kuma thing are similar. So, once we find out about one of them, we're going to find out what happened with the other whenever they made it back to the Mighty Joe and stuff of that nature. But Garcia Saturn undoubtedly also wants, knowing Luffy's here, it's like, hold on, man. I gotta see with my own two eyes. This is a figure of legend, right? And I'm sure, maybe trying to get in the good graces of Emu, and or just to come up with his own answers, because the Gorosei are their own individuals as well. We don't know how deep their stuff really goes back with Emu. So we're going to some extremely deep. But the fact remains that a character like Shinji Garcia Saturn would love to have a conversation with the one that everyone's been talking about, and the one who has, awakened the one ability that is just like their biggest threat, that once belonged to their greatest enemy. And so I'm sure Garcia Saturn is going to want to have that conversation take place. Now, here's why I think this is important to the second part of the question. I think if that happens, and Garcia Saturn and Luffy have the conversation, it is inevitable that Void Century information is incoming at the end of this arc. I'm not sure if it comes out due to Punk Records literally injecting itself into everyone, right? As a theory has stated before within this community. I think it's very, very interesting. But even without Punk Records doing that, even without us getting a potential game-breaking reveal within Kuma's flashback, which I'm sure is probably going to connect us to the God Valley stuff, as we've talked about before in previous Afterthoughts. But even if it's just the conversation, and we have Garcia Saturn, and we have the King, there is no doubt in my mind that Garcia Saturn brings up something from the Void Century there. Something from the Void Century is going to get dropped there. Because he believes he is, especially with what I saw in this chapter, he believes he's going to be able to take him down. He's like, yo, there's no way they're going to be able to touch me. I'm Garcia Saturn. I got a mythical Zoan ability. 2 mythical Zoans boxing. Just like what we saw here with Lucci and Luffy, except now we're going to have someone who's about it. And yo, believing he's going to take Luffy out, drop something crazy. Or if Robin's there and they have a conversation there too, I strongly believe we're going to get something else. And we've already gotten the craziest Void Century reveals within this arc. We're not even at the final 10 chapters of the arc, I'm going to assume. And if we are at the final volume's worth of material when we come back to Egghead, this is about to be the craziest final 10 chapters that we've ever seen within the end of an arc. I mean, this is going to be chaos, dude. It's going to be chaos. With Blackbeard's ship pulling up, with Saint Garcia Saturn, Kizaru, and the 100 battleships coming in, this is going to get nuts. It's going to get nuts, man. The Egghead incident, there's a reason why Oda's showing all this before, so we can have context to what's about to take place here with an Egghead and post-Egghead. The huge incident at Egghead Island It's about to be the craziest stuff we've experienced so far. And that's crazy for me to think about, considering this is the year where we've gotten Divine Departure, Galaxy Impact, all the greatness we've just gotten in the past couple chapters, and 1085. It's like, man. So I do believe we'll be getting more information though, Animaniac. 100%. 100%. At this point, I feel like it's inevitable. There's just been it feels like we're setting something up that is about to have immediate payoff. Like normally when Oda sets something up, we're all like, okay, it's gonna have long-term payoff, and obviously I expect long-term payoff to quite a few of the things we've seen. But it feels like something is brewing to where there's gonna be immediate payoff to some of this voice entry info. I really, really do. I really, really do. And so, where is it? Okay, so let's talk about Emu's arrow. There's two comments that I would like to bring up here. The first one comes in from Lars Caesar, who says, Emu's arrow comes from the side even though Cobra's looking right at him. The attack coming from the black border itself, as if Emu's ability is using the page itself. I think that is so cool. And it reminds me of the paneling that was done in chapter 1045, when every time Luffy would do an attack, it felt like the page itself was following the movements, right? Like Luffy about to get hit by the club, and the page, the seamless transition to him coming down, looking down, and it felt like he and the page became one during the 1044, 1045 stuff. Of course, it was Oda's mastery over the page, but it really did feel like that he almost like popped out of the page in certain instances. And in this case, you're absolutely right with the way the arrow comes out. It's like the page itself is also being used by Emu, and that's why I keep saying that this Emu versus Luffy fight, now after what I saw this week and with Gear 5, and the more insanity we see from both of them, it is going to be the craziest fight ever. Coming from the two of them who can do stuff like this. Like, it's going to be so much fun, man. And so, Lars, you're absolutely right. Now, there is also the possibility that this arrow did not come from Emu, and rather this arrow came from one of the members of the Gorosei, right? Like, we still don't know where the arrow came from. We assume it's Emu. I know I most certainly assume it's Emu, especially if it is, like what James is about to talk about here, was James. So, James Whittick, and this is something we talked about here on stream a couple of days ago. I really think Emu's arrow wasn't an arrow, it was their tail. It looks like a devil tail. Could Emu have eaten the devil fruit? Such a great reaction as always, man. I appreciate you. It was such a great chapter. But so let's talk about this scenario as well. Obviously, within Egghead, we found out more about the potential origin of devil fruits. We got Vegapunk's theory on what could have happened, you know, when desires and dreams manifested themselves within these devil fruits, right? Like, we got to have a good inclination as to what could actually have happened back in the Void Century for the creation of these fruits. Now, with what we saw in this week's chapter, it really got me thinking, and I saw a lot of people brought this up within the stream, right? When we talked about Emu's abilities and a lot of what could have happened here. And as a matter of fact, I think Subra was on. Actually, I know Subra left a comment. Let me see if Subra brings this up within his comment about the dreams and nightmares scenario, because I think it's just very, very interesting. So let me read Subra's comment, because I know Subra was very adamant on the dreams and nightmares thing. And then we'll continue on to that, James, because I think it's such a fascinating idea here. So we cut over to Subra, who says, what a chapter to celebrate 10 years, for real, bro, right? Many of the things to talk about have still been discussed in the live stream, I think, and so I'll elaborate on my theories from there. Thank you earlier as always. First of all, the Lily and Toki relation. Read the last dialogue of Toki before death and letter left by Lily. There's an uncanny this very similar. Also, she said she fled from the past. However, she said her parents were from Wano, so she wanted to go back to Wano, but I feel like that's a lie after reading it today. After reading chapter 973, two things have become a little clear to me. As Odin said, you came looking for it too. Then go 20 years in the future and you will find what you want. However, Toki then refused and she found Odin had sacrificed her journey. So maybe she was searching for the poneglyphs that Lily has hidden, or she might be coming to the present time to help Joy Boy to find them as ordered by Lily. That is a theory I love. Having the time ability, Lily went to Toki and was like, yo, you know what you gotta do. Keep going until you see the Joy Boy. And if she would have just traveled 20 years into the future, she would have been there in the same position as Zunisha to have experienced the drums of liberation. What would have happened then? What would have happened then? right? Like, truly, it would have changed everything. It would have changed everything. And so, and the question still stands, how do they know that it will happen in the present year? Lily being Toki is a very far-fetched idea, however, the relationship might be a thing. Now, this leads to two things. The relationship between Alabasta and Wano, I think the poneglyph related to Pluton was hidden in Alabasta with purpose, yes. As they might have been close friends with, like, Minx or with Kazuki. I think Lily had the whole coup against Imu. There was supposed to be no ruler, however, Imu manipulated everyone and turned himself into a ruler. And that's why Lily did not accept the 20 Kingdoms Treaty. She came to know the true image of Imu and started to share the info with the people using the help of Wano, and that's why to save Wano was closed using the Pluton. Next is Shanks being a Figureland and Imu relation. As I said, I think Imu is a Figureland and so is Shanks. That's a crazy. Like, if that is revealed about Imu being a member of the Figureland family, maybe the original of the Figureland family, man, and not having the D. And that goes to show, like, maybe Shanks knowing this entire time it's like, yo, that's why I can't go after that thing. You know, it's not meant to be. God Valley happened 38 years ago, and Tokyo was introduced 30 years ago in the Odin timeline. However, there's a huge missing link that is going on between Lily, Imu, and Shanks. The thing is, everything that's happening kind of connects with Shanks in a way. His connection with the Godosei, being a celestial dragon, and a sudden appearance during God Valley. So another thought came to my mind: Shanks, the child of Lily. Also, Vivi is not the direct descendant of Lily. As we know, the ruler of Alabasta was the younger brother of Lily, and the other descendants of him, just to have a clear context. So you think that Shanks may actually be a direct descendant of Lily, and not necessarily Vivi. That's something I haven't heard yet. Third and last point, dreams and nightmares concept. Here we go. So we talked a lot about this stuff on stream. Luffy represents dreams, and Imu represents nightmares. In the myths, Phogator is the god of nightmares, goddess of night Nyx, or god of sleep Hypnos, depending on the myth, had 3 children. They lived in the pantheon of dreams called Oniroi. Also, this place is linked with Erebos, the Greek underworld. Shout out to Trails, the Spiral of Erebos. Another thing is the word phobia comes from Phobator. He has the power to change forms into animals and monsters. There's Morpheus, their brother who can shapeshift as humans and appear in the dreams of kings. This is all information taken from Ovid's Metamorphosis. I think the Onirei kind of represents well what Imu represents, and that is fear. Also, Imu being a being without any body / shape and just a void, just like Hollow Knight. Oh, and I love that game. And finally, this had to added an Aztec reference god, Zotl. This part is copy pasted from Wikipedia just for info bottom. In the legend of Teotihuacan, in which the gods decided to sacrifice themselves for the newly created sun, Zotl withdrew from the sacrifice and wept so much that his eyes fell out of their sockets. According to the creation, recounted from the sacrifice and wept so much that his eyes fell out of their sockets. According to the creation, recounted. I just reread that again. Sorry, it's just that the things are so close together. According to the creation recorded in the Florentine Codex, and the 5th sun was initially created, it did not move. The god of wind, thinking about his Makati dragon, consequently began slaying all of the gods to induce the newly created sun into movement. Zotl, however, was unwilling to die in order to give movement to the new sun. Zotl transformed himself into a young maize plant with 2 stalks. A doubled maguey plant, Mexozotl, and amphibious animal, Axozotl. Zolotl is thus a master transformer. In the end, Ehecatel succeeded in finding and killing Zotl. Sorry it's got huge, but I had to share all the information. Nah, dude, I've never heard any of that. Not even on stream. But that's it for now. Thank you, and see you in the episode reaction for 10 to 37. I hope that we get the opportunity to react to that. I'll probably have to cut it soon so we can react to that. But because it's chapter 1037, I cannot wait to see how they adapt that material. So thank you, Super. Like, it's just going back to the earlier comment, the whole dreams and nightmares thing fascinates me. The potential ideas in not only dreams being manifested inside of these things, but also the nightmares of the people also manifesting themselves within these certain characters, especially if these are if the nightmares are what are represented within the major antagonists of the series, like Imu and the 5 elders. If they represent, let's just say, we could over to the 5 elders, we get to see what their forms look like, and all of them are these terrifying monstrosities. I think that would be so interesting, especially if the 5 of them have like the boogeyman type of concept where they're born from like the fear of children all around the world. That to me is like the most fascinating thing, especially in the way that it connects to Imu, a character who, just like one would in a tale of horror, they're mainly built on, you know, these individuals not knowing that they exist, right? Like, and then those fears is what fuels these characters. So for me, that goes into right up Oda's alley, and it's something I would love to see him explore if we do go down this manifesting the nightmares route. I just think that's so interesting. Rodman brought this up. Now, I did not get the opportunity to search this up because I just got home. I researched a little bit on it, but I need to research some more. Radman says, the Japanese community is going crazy about the ancient Mu civilization. I'm going to have to continue to search this up. I suggest you do some reading. The similarities are uncanny. They are said to have a sun god of advanced technology, which that just those two things has me crazy. Even the shape of the kingdom looks similar to the ancient kingdom in One Piece. If this is Oda's inspiration, mythology in the Mu kingdom and a connection to Emu could give us some insane theory material. And that to me is so fascinating. So let me go ahead and do another Google search, because before I came on here, I was searching it up and I was like, wow, but I didn't see any of that. So man, what in the world is this? Mu civilization symbols. The secret symbols of Mu. Ooh, interesting. Mu. It's like and then the fact that it's called a mythical lost continent is what really fascinates me. Where do you live? North America. There are 7 continents in the world. We all grew up with that thought, but how many of us are aware of the lost continent of Mu? The continent of Lemuria. Its civilization flourished 50,000 years ago, and they believe that this civilization was more advanced than any other civilization. Where have we heard that before? So let me read that again. Various evidence was found in which shows the presence of these mysterious and lost island in the Indian Ocean. Civilization flourished 50,000 years ago and believed that this civilization was more advanced than any other ancient civilization. According to the writer, Augustus Le Plongeon, Mu is an ancient lost continent that exists 12,000 years ago. He believed that this was located in the Atlantic Ocean. James Churchward was one in his 20s who wrote the first book about Mu, Lost Continent on Mu, Motherland of Men. And here we get to see where it would have taken place on the map. In the Pacific Ocean, right to the bottom left of North America, which is so fascinating to me because it really is just a lot of water today, right? That is such a fascinating thing, even just outside of One Piece. During his traveling by an Indian priest, let me see, that Mu is a Garden of Eden, and that all civilizations come from Mu. Continent was destroyed or collapsed in a single night by a series of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and One Piece-ified, you know. But still, that is very interesting. And then I want to see some more stuff on the potential sun god stuff. Mu is a lost continent that was featured in 1963 Toho film. Oh, they made a film out of it. Encyclopedia. Lemuria and Mu. It is often associated with Atlantis. Ooh, Mu is often associated with Atlantis. That's interesting. The mysterious lost lands were conceived during the 19th century when the theory of evolution was introduced, and was among the advances in the sciences that challenged conventional ways of understanding life. Archaeological discoveries among the ruins of the Egyptians, Mayans, and other societies forced new interpretations of history, and radical forms of mysticism such as theosophy were becoming popular. Hieroglyphics found in Mayan ruins. The ancient land that had sunk into the ocean after volcanic eruption. M and U. This is spooky, man. With Lost Land, Mu. Oh, here's the Egyptian stuff. He allegedly uncovered a story about 2 brothers who vied for a queen named Mu. Let me read that again. Hold on, I gotta stand up for this. Let me get some water. Let me get some water! Let me get some water. Let me get some water. He allegedly uncovered a story about two brothers who vied for a queen named Mu, which he connected with Mu. One of the brothers was killed, and the other took power just before a catastrophe struck Mu. Queen Mu fled before the catastrophe. Queen Lily fled before the catastrophe. Speculations quickly added that she had reached Egypt. You can't make this, bro. You can't make this up. One of the brothers was killed. The other took power just before a catastrophe struck Mu. Queen Mu fled before the catastrophe. Speculations quickly added that she had reached Egypt, obviously Alabasta, became revered as the goddess Isis, founded Egyptian civilization, and directed the building of the Sphinx. Dude, this is fascinating stuff, man. In the mid-19th century, Charles Darwin, among the theory, became widely accepted among scientists at one point. An island Madagascar, but separated by expansive water, the lemur, a predecessor of monkeys, had the same traits in each locale. Shout out to the monkey D. Dude, this is fascinating. The lost continent of an advanced human race. 64 million people was destroyed in 10,000 BCE. They were capable of telepathy, teleportation. So they were extreme. Dude, this is really, really fascinating, man. And a third eye. Wait, what? Lemurians, according to, were the third of 7 races of humankind. They were the hermaphrodites with psychic abilities and a third eye. Third eye clan? Another proponent of Lemuria and other mystics, Central Asia and called Tibet, before the catastrophe, the White Brother land. They established a library and a school of spiritual adepts known as the Great White Brotherhood. Certain landmasses on the planet are supposedly the last remains of Lemuria from Pacific Islands, Fiji, Hawaii, and Easter Island to the west coast of the United States. The ruins, in 1972, the ruins of a submerged Lemurian city were found between Maui and Oahu in the Hawaiian island chain and was covered up in a top secret project by U.S. Naval Intelligence. Dude, so I'm definitely going to do a lot more research on it. Just me Google searching that real quick was crazy. Crazy how insane those similarities are, man. Wow, yo, Radman, you are a true goat for directing me in that. God, man, that was crazy. Excuse me. So I really want to watch the episodes, but I'm having such a good time talking about this. So I'll probably read. Let me read 2 more, and then we'll call it. Read 2 more, and we'll call it. So Matthias Cerulli. Let's go ahead and make this full screen. This chapter got me incredibly hyped for the Gordosi members. Not gonna lie, same. I'm going to talk about the fruits of 3 members. The first one I'll talk about is the giant head with hordes that is located where St. J. Garcia's Saturn is supposed to be. This thing looks like a demon, and I found one that Catholics go say pretty well, and it's first beast from the Bible. In Revelations 13:1-10, it said the first beast rise out of the sea and is given authority. Powered by the dragon, being in this case Emu, and Revelation 11:7, it is said that emerging from the abyss, which could also be called the void, absolutely the beast, alongside the second beast in their fight against God and persecute those who do not worship the image of the sea. And there is that theory that Emu comes from Umi, that means to see, and the appearances of the first beast is said to have does not correlate at all with what we have seen in the silhouette, but the second one is described with giant horns. It's odifying, right? It's always odifying is inspirations. And the second beast known as the false prophet was basically described with the eldest are. Yes, I don't see this theory coming true, but I had to say this. I think that's actually pretty cool, especially with the things that we've seen so far within within that particular sector of the Bible that has been shown off before, at the very least that I've interpreted, that has been shown off before within the series. So I find that to be very, very fascinating stuff. The second user I want to talk about is the bald one with a sword, my boy Gandhi, who I believe has the power of those arrows. Oh, so you think Gandhi's actually the one that used the arrows? I say arrows with because I believe this is actually a devil's tail, and at this point I do too. Especially off the cartoony nature of it, but that's only if it's Emu. If it's somebody else, I don't know. But maybe they're all rocking this thing. Who knows? Maybe they're all just, like somebody said in the chat stream, maybe they're all just extensions of Emu, right? Who knows? I think that thanks to the series saying he has the Shodai Kitetsu. Hey, so I was not trolling. I was not trolling. The Sanjio Waza Mono Curse Sword, this comes from having the same handle as the others. Kitetsu, and Kitetsu means Demon Killer Splitter. Maybe he's got the sword after killing its original owner, and the sword maybe was actually made to kill the Gorosei. That is so interesting. I actually love that idea. Last thing is the bird thing. Ho-Oh came into mind when I looked at that thing. Same here. Straight up. It like the first thing I thought of when I saw it was like Ho-Oh from Pokemon. Like I was so dead set on that. So I dived into a Chinese phoenix better called the Feng Huang. The Feng Huang represented the power sent by the skies to the Empress. Having its decoration could mean two things. The first one, that the people of that house or place were loyal and honest. Second one, that a phoenix is only shown when the government is not dark and corrupt. Very ironic talking about the Five Elders. The Feng Huang is said to be an omen foretelling harmony at the ascent to the throne of a new emperor. By the way it is located in the panels, the user must be a long-haired dude. The color of his feathers represent the 5 virtues of Confucius. Ren, benevolence, charity, and humanity. Yi, honesty and rectitude. Someone could have put into Zong, giving the best of oneself, constant and loyalty. And Shu, the virtue of reciprocity, altruism and consideration of others. Z for knowledge. Zen for fidelity and integrity. And Li for correct behavior, property, good manners, education, ceremony, and worship. Yo, that is so interesting, and I'm so down for that too. It sounds like something that Oda would definitely get a good thing out of, like a good inspiration out of, for sure. And actually, the comment above yours has me thinking, now they're talking about their abilities. Joel Koto says, I got a not so much solid theory that Imu may be one of the people that created a power like the Devil Fruits, but instead of making it with dreams, like Vegapunk said, it was with nightmares. So there's Zoan power, like stuff from hell to Sabo, just a thought. So, going back to what we were talking about earlier with how we got into the idea of these abilities, I think that's so interesting. I do, and for them to be the only individuals to have this that we've seen so far it just makes it really unique to them. So here we'll read our last comment before we go and watch the episode. Marcus Lem says, sorry I could not catch it live. Happy decade YouTube anniversary, King. Nah, nothing but love to you, yo. Thank you. Keep up the Goda content. We're all here for it. Experience this goodness together. Regarding this chapter, I have a few thoughts. Imu-sama. The hints and conjecture to his name and how he refers to himself are already interesting on their own, but as of now open to speculation. I love that the TCB managed to make him sound like an ancient royal being. It is so imposing together with the visual of the throne room and Cobra losing his marbles, coughing in shock. His reaction to the hidden D in the Nefeltari bloodline has me wondering, did Lily make her blunder so vague in a way that Imu thinks she did not do it on purpose? They seem to be really angry about the whole situation. I love the symbolism of Mu eating the fire and extinguishing the light. I love that too. I didn't even think about that. That's so true. My theory regarding his origin is that Imu of the 20 Kings was the 16th king, and he definitely got made immortal by the Opi Opi no Mi. I don't know where he got the 16th. Oh, because of the 16 lights. Oh, I see. And immortality by the Opi Opi no Mi, because he refers to himself in third person. It is possible that it/them have multiple entities within one another, and I can see that as well. Maybe some of the kings merged their souls somehow to create a true king of the world. Maybe through a pact with forces from the other side, and different parts took over the years. That very well could be the case. Gorosei, so this number 2, I'm so glad and scared to see that they all have powers. I think they should all be mythical Zoans, but they don't have to be. Maybe they have a new classification of Zoan, like the Shadow Zoan or something that Emo created specifically for them. That could be the case as well. Their silhouettes could be very misleading though too. I think Saturn will give us a clear answer on Egghead, so I'm so excited to see them again on Egghead, man. It's also wild that the WG had forces like the Holy Knights and apparently the Gorosei, and never decided or had the need to use them outside of the Mariji. Also, Gandhi Gorosei is ultra base for pulling out the sword and not a blicky. Facts, yo! Everybody else went straight for the Glock, and my dog was like, nah, I got a blade, bro. CB. Sabo felt to me in this chapter like wandering to a region in RPG you're not ready for yet. That is a very accurate comparison. He bit off way more than he could chew. Of that he tried like he did, it really makes so much sense for his character and also gave him the will of D in a way, because he's also an official enemy of the gods. Facts. As well as the hidden rulers of the world. After seeing what kind of damage he took, I'm a bit surprised to see how healthy he seems now and shortly after the reverie next to Lucia. Cannot wait to see what happens next, if more even happens or if we wrap up the flashback next chapter, but I know it'll be peak. It is going to be peak, my friend. Like, I can tell you, coming off of this stretch of chapters, if there's one thing that we can guarantee here, is that no matter what we're going to get into next, whether we continue the flashback going into the end of the next chapter, or if this is the end of the flashback, or like maybe halfway through the next chapter, whatever it is, and then we go back into the present content, I'm excited for two things. Well, more things, but two things in particular in regards to, when we leave the flashback. Which perspective we come back to, whether it be the Sabo dragon perspective and seeing what their answer to this entire scenario is going to be. What are they going to do now? Sabo has to tell Vivi and Luffy about this, them sharing the moniker of D, right? So it's like, what conclusion does Dragon come to of what the Revolutionary Army needs to do now? I'm so interested in hearing that answer. Vivi and Wapol with Big News Morgans. I cannot wait to see what comes out of that, knowing what we know thanks to this chapter that Wapol saw. It's like, how is that going to lead into the insanity of the end of Egghead Island? And of course, cutting back to Egghead, we have not seen these characters in chapter 1078. I'm excited to see the Straw Hats again. I'm excited to see the King, but especially with somebody like St. J. Garcia Saturn putting up. Oh man, dude. I'm excited for all three present day scenarios, and if we decide to go back to Kuzan and Garp, fine. Or Buggy, I'm cool. But I'm ready to come back to Egghead, man. I'm ready. It is time for us to peak, even though we've already peaked. What's good, y'all? I finished recording the episode reaction, and I noticed I still had a bit of time left, and I was like, Street Fighter, One Piece Afterthoughts. Street Fighter, One Piece Afterthoughts. And so I got a little bit of Street Fighter in while I was letting the episode reaction render. So I was like, you know what, man? Let's get back to some One Piece, bro. Even if it's just for 5 to 10 minutes, let me record two more questions at the very least. I love this chapter, y'all. Like, chapter 1085 was so special that it's all that's been in my mind. I can't stop thinking about Instant Messenger Sama and Sabo and Cobra and Nefeltari, D, either Lily or Vivi. It's just the possibilities of the Gorosei. It's just a magnificent chapter. And so let's go ahead and take a look here. Recon, shout out to my boy Recon, who comes in and saw a really amazing theory about how Imu could have been the first king of the pirates. Man, however, just like how Rayleigh said to Luffy and the Straw Hats that you might come to your own different conclusions at Laugh Tale about the true history, maybe causing the Void Sentry was the dark part to that decision. Unlike Roger and his crew who had a really beautiful moment. That is interesting. And so I know I've talked about this before, sort of a recontextualization through Luffy and the Straw Hats. We don't know if they're necessarily going to have the same reaction. I know that within our community, at least from the discussions that we've had on stream about the same topic, that most individuals would want Luffy to come to a similar conclusion and or a similar moment where he laughs as well, just to parallel the Roger laugh. But I always wanted to add that different perspective of what about, because I truly believe the Void Sentry is a tragic tale. So rather than them all laughing, that they all end up crying, right? But at the same time, because it's them finding the One Piece, I can see them laughing at it as well. But regardless of the decision and the conclusion that's made there, because that's mainly just a reaction. It's not really a decision that's made. The decision that'll be made is, what you do after finding out that information. And that's what I find very interesting about your comment, is this works extremely well. It would actually be really cool for me, considering that we would potentially get 3 different reactions to the One Piece, right? Like Emus, Rogers, and Luffy and the Straw Hats. So I'm so down for this, especially if you're right and Emu was the first king of the pirates. And with the context from this week's chapter, which tells us that Queen Lily was basically the individual responsible for ushering in this era of piracy, which to me is very, very interesting. Like, pretty much placing all of the blame on Lily. Like, without Lily, we wouldn't have to worry about pirates right now. So I wonder, similar to what we were talking about earlier with Emu being in secret and in hiding, did Emu want that the original era of piracy to end with them? Potentially not wanting to usher in any more of that stuff, and it just happened to take place again, right? Thanks to someone like Queen Lily, that even whenever they reset, the quote-unquote Great Reset, coming out of the Void Sentry, did Instant Messenger Sama really not want any more pirates out there? Maybe because they themselves are, like you said, are a previous pirate and understand just how dangerous an individual like that can be, chasing romance, chasing freedom. I find that to be very interesting. I think that would be one of the coolest twists in the series, that the first king of the pirates would then become the king of the world. And then that would lead to my next question on that is Rox. Obviously, Rox wanted to become the king of the world. This is an individual who, not stopping, of course, because Roger was the one that was first given the quote-unquote title of King of the Pirates after he found the One Piece. And so, Rox, not knowing what a King of the Pirates is, he was like, I want to be King of the World. And, of course, he was breaking all kinds of taboos to get to that point. But I'm so curious as to how much Rox knew of Emu and potentially the original individual behind all of this, because maybe that's what was his main motivational factor of becoming a pirate, and maybe the reason why he went to God Valley was to potentially ask someone related to Emu how we can get to someone like Emu or one of the other individuals there, because apparently some taboo subjects were brought up within God Valley. And so I wonder how much Rox knew about all of this, if this is true. I think that's so cool. Like you said, the different conclusions. Oda loves adding different perspectives to certain things. Obviously, we all expect the Void Century to recontextualize the entire series and everything that we know about the One Piece world, right? And all of the history that we've come to know from it up until this point. But Emu potentially, going from being maybe even a representative of freedom, as we've talked about before, we were on the same wavelength, at the very least, of having Lily, Joy Boy, and Emu be individuals who were connected, most likely in a positive way, before something drastic happened, right? And so I'm curious if Joy Boy is seen as the individual who is the the embodiment of freedom, the one who went out there and freed all of the slaves. I wonder then what happened to Emu that caused him to be the way that he would end up being this very oppressive individual that's just obsessed with control. Like, I really am curious how we got to that point, if he really was the original King of the Pirates. It's such a fascinating thing, and especially after this chapter and the similarities there with Gear 5, it's like, could you imagine these two being on the same squad? Who's stopping that? Who's stopping a squad of Queen Nefeltari D. Lily, Joy Boy, potentially doing similar things to Luffy, because obviously they're two different characters, so they're not going to be doing the same exact moveset, but still with this wacky Luffy Tunes action, and then an Emu who was doing all the craziness we saw in this week's chapter. It's like, that is unstoppable. That is an unstoppable force. So I can't, like, when I see stuff like this, it gets me extremely excited to see, of course, what we're going to find out when we get to Laugh Tale about the Void Century. But something like that, as big as Emu being the original King of the Pirates, I don't even think we would have to wait until the Void Century. I think that might be something revealed before we get there to really make us think, whether it be through Emu themselves or from somebody close to Emu, right? Maybe even a Shinji Garcia Saturn could reveal something like this if it is true. So I find it to be super, super interesting, Recon. I really do. And like you said, causing the Void Century was like the dark part. That's a decision that they made. And then we know what Roger and his crew and the decision that they made as well. And of course, Roger was on a time limit, so there's that factor to it. But I really do wonder what that conclusion that Rayleigh was talking about is, and what the Straw Hats decision is inevitably going to end up being. So exciting stuff there. But Recon, awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. And then let's go ahead and do one more before we get back to editing here. It's just, man, this chapter was so good. you know a chapter is great whenever you go back. So I got KFP Spooky Clips, who comes in and says, I have a theory that Lily escaped the Red Line and was wanted, so she asked Joy Boy for help, and him and Zunisha took her to an island in the Calm Belt, which was later known as Amazon Lily. Ah, see, so that's the connection to the Lily thing. We were talking about that in chapter 1084, of if she could potentially be the individual responsible for naming Amazon Lily, or Amazon Lily was named after her, right? Zunisha's crime that he committed was taking Lily, a wanted criminal, and helping her escape. That is a very interesting theory. So I can see a lot of that being the case, honestly, in multiple regards.
Joy Boy. See, the thing with this question is, and with Joy Boy, is I'm just so curious on when this takes place, because I'm going to assume at some point in time within the arc, I'm sorry, within the Void Century, Joy Boy had to have been either imprisoned and or executed, potentially even publicly, similar to Roger. Something had to have happened because he was the symbol, right? Unless he just disappeared. So if he was publicly executed and or just taken out, or whatever the case may be, there had to have been a bump period, right, where he was still free and on the loose. So that would mean that if you're on track about this, then Joy Boy at this point in time was still on the move, right, attempting to allow Queen Lily to escape. But maybe it was within that act of bringing in the dawn to the future of the verse that would lead to Zunisha being punished and to Joy Boy being executed, unless the Lily stuff and her decision to want to propel the future of mankind to the point to where they knew it would eventually get to. Maybe the catalyst for that was Joy Boy's death, which would move both Zunisha and Lily to go against the individuals of the time, which of course Emu and them. And so that would have led to the punishment by Zunisha, and what we come to know as why it is that Lily never returned and stuff of that nature. And so I'm so curious, because you're absolutely right. We could go either scenario where the catalyst for them moving forward was someone like Joy Boy no longer being there for them, so they had to make the decisions themselves, or Joy Boy was still there, and as that symbol, they felt the freedom to go out and be able to make these decisions no matter the consequences. Either way, I'm so down for this being a possibility. I think this is super, super cool. Especially the connection with Zunisha and Joy Boy and Amazon Lily, because like I said before, I'm fully expecting the Void Century flashback to recontextualize a lot of the arcs we've already been to, right? Like potentially seeing how some of them were created. And one of them being Amazon Lily here would be really, really cool. And seeing the reason why it's named, potentially being after Queen Lily of House Nefeltari, which is still the coolest thing ever. So yeah, man, great stuff. I just, like I said, I wanted to at the very least read a few more, because these comments were so special, man. And so was the chapter, the stream, just everything about this week. And chapter 1085 was just incredible, and I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it. So this will take a little long to render, so it probably won't be out until tomorrow, but I couldn't help it. I had to talk about some more, you know what I mean? So it's going to be so much fun, man. So I appreciate y'all so much. I apologize for not being able to get to all the comments. Now, when I put these on the computer, it's time to react to the latest 2 episodes. I'm so excited, yo. I will see y'all. Take care. This has been the 1085 Afterthoughts, which was full with greatness from so many different characters. One of the best chapters, not only of this year, but potentially in the entire series. It was such a special chapter, man. I loved every second of it. Emu greatness, Sabo greatness, Cobra greatness, Vivi greatness, Walpole. I mean, it was special. Bro, Leo and Sai and the Strike Grand Fleet comment, it was beautiful. Gorosei, Emu, it's just so many confirmations, reveals, questions. Like, it was a phenomenal chapter, man. I'm just so grateful to be able to experience this with all of you guys. And like y'all all said, what a way to celebrate 10 years of this magnificent series, man. Or at least of us covering this series here on YouTube. So I will see y'all. Have a good one. Take care, yo. Man.